Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Money Talks by YouTube. I am your host, Aaron Yoon, and joining me today is Dr. Sheri Fluellen. She is a clinical psychologist. She has been for about 15 years. She's also trained as a psychologist for the Air Force. So thank you for your service to our country.
You're welcome.
And then she started her own private practice, and it started five different businesses. She's also an entrepreneur, right? And also a real estate investor with her husband, owning over 20 properties, I believe, 20 units, I believe.
Yeah, about 27, I think now.
Wow, 27. Does that mean 27 doors?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, okay, yeah. So 27 doors. Awesome. And a mother of four, right?
Yes.
So I think that one of the first things that we're going to want to hear about is, how do you do all of this? How do you have 20 plus properties and multiple businesses and find time to be a mother of four? How do you do all of it?
It's a challenge, and I am no means superwoman. I have an amazing husband that takes on a lot of that, and we work very well together. He's my emotional support, where I'm good, he's not so good at, but where he's, and so we kind of fill in the gaps for each other. But we've been married for over 20 years, so it's taken a long time to get to this place. But it's being aware of what my goals are in life and why I'm doing what I'm doing with any business that I start or am involved. And I have to have a really strong why, because that's what keeps me going and motivated.
Awesome. I can very confidently say that you are probably going to be a great role model and an inspiration to a lot of our viewers here. And it is inspiring to see a mom of four that be able to do all that stuff. So you can't have it all. I think there was a book recently that came out, is like, it was geared towards women. I don't remember the title of the book, but it's something about you can have it all. That might actually be the title of the book. You can have it all. And when I see this kind of a resume and and this list of accomplishments, that's definitely what comes to mind. Like that, you are on fire. That's awesome.
Yeah. I feel momentum. It's not that I'm perfect, or like I said, I'm not superwoman, but
sure.
But yeah, I just enjoy doing things that are meaningful. And when you're doing something that's meaningful, you can put a lot of energy and get a lot of traction on it.
Awesome. So one of the things that we like to talk about on this channel is money. Right? It's called Money Talks for a reason.
Yes.
And there is definitely a psychological component to how we relate to money, right? And so there are a couple of things I wanted your professional opinion on today.
Of course.
Yeah. So the first being, money is become a kind of taboo subject in our day-to-day society, right? We're not really supposed to share what we make
right
last month, and we're not, business owners are a little bit more open to sharing, what their gross revenue was or something like that. But people with corporate jobs, it's like we tiptoe around it, and we're like, oh no, I'm not trying to ask you how much you make or anything like that. And there's this big, thick boundary that we draw, and we're not allowed to talk to each other about how much we make. However, when we talk about, like, for example, let's say you recently won like a bunch of money at the casinos or a lottery. You won like $100,000 or something like that, right? That's the kind of thing that people would very quickly brag about on social media.
Sure.
Right?
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that difference between, but it's interesting, but I kind of have my response already on maybe what the difference is. I don't know if that's where you're going, but
no, that is that's totally where I was going, because on the one hand we're like, oh no, I don't really want to talk about it. It's okay, I respect your boundaries, but on the other hand, like, it's still money.
Yeah.
And we want to like brag about it. So What's happening in those two situations?
You know, I think it really boils down to kind of the same phenomenon, and it's about our self-worth. And so if you think about salary or what you're generating as income on an ongoing basis because of the work that you're outputting, I think most people would say, well, if you make more, then you're worth more. Well, maybe they wouldn't say it, but it's an implied. You know, the better you are as a human being, or the more value, you know, as an entrepreneur, we think about it, the more value you put in the world, the more revenue you're going to get. And I don't like the fact that people equate their worth with money, but I think that is just the state of society right now. And so I think if my best guess is that's why people are very hesitant to talk about their salaries, because if they find out, you know, the guy next door is making more, then, you know, maybe the thought going through that person's mind is like, well, the company doesn't value me as much, or they don't think I'm worth it, or you know, maybe that person will start feeling like they're not worth as much. But then you get the person that won the lottery. It has nothing to do about their worth. It was just a happenstance or lucky, or maybe they'll say, yeah, you know, I play all the time. It was bound to happen, you know, which contributes to their self-worth. So they're going to share it because now they feel like the fact that they won the money actually, you know, increases their self-worth, you know, kind of an interesting way. So I don't know. I really think it goes back to self-worth and just kind of how we apply those different situations to how people view us or how we view ourselves.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. And yes, I do think that a lot of people, especially when it comes to gambling, they'll very quickly take credit for whatever it was that caused them to win. You know,
right.
It's not luck. It's they had something. They had some kind of edge, and they're very quickly to brag about it. Whereas if they lose, it's somebody else's fault. Right? Yep. We find that to be very, very common. Going off of the continuing on the idea of self-worth, what can we do to kind of separate the two and just not be so quick to determine like, oh my God, you know, this amount of money means I'm worth, like, equals that I am, you know, this amount of self-worth. Like, how can we start to value our self-worth in different ways other than how much money we make every year?
And that is the challenge that the world faces. How do we indeed? It really goes back to the most foundational ways in which we view ourselves, in which we view our thoughts. So let me get a little bit kind of crazy, kind of in our head for a minute. There's two different concepts I wanted to talk about first and have us to understand. The first one is an idea, and then the second one is a belief. And do you have a perspective on what the difference might be between an idea and a belief? I'm going to put you on the spot, Aaron.
I think that I have an idea
about the idea. Take your best guess.
But I don't know that I'm going to be able to articulate it very well. But my take on the simplest way that I would distinguish between the two, and I hope I get this right, is this might be an oversimplification, but I would say that one is more of a conscious, like ideas are a little bit more conscious, whereas beliefs can drive our behaviors on a subconscious level. That's where I would go with it. Although I know that we can take on new beliefs, but I think it's something that we allow to really go all the way deep down into the subconscious level and really govern our behavior and other things like that on a level that we don't even understand. Whereas an idea is kind of like on the surface.
Yeah. I think what your description of it, I think, is very complimentary to kind of how I describe it. I think they're coming at it from different perspectives. So I'm going to kind of put it in a little bit. I'm going to simplify it even more just to keep things super easy to understand and apply. So an idea is like a hypothesis in science. There is a statement and an idea is, so if I have a thought that pops into my brain, but I'm not entirely sure if it's true or false, it's an idea. And I'm going to work on either proving or disproving that idea if I care about the idea. And so it's still kind of, I'm figuring it out. Whereas a belief is more like a law. It's an idea that we have either confirmed or disconfirmed, whether objectively or not. Maybe it was confirmed in childhood or whatever, you're kind of, and it moves to, like you said, the subconscious, but it has become something we believe and is more like a law. So we don't even think about it anymore or try to disprove it. We just live knowing that that's quote unquote true, which fits very well with how you described it. And so the challenge, tying this back to what you said about the value of our own worth and how it applies to money. This is the challenge with any thought that we have. If we have let it get to a belief without really consciously going through the process of confirming or disconfirming and doing it objectively, then we end up just acting without really having that conscious awareness or being intentional. And a lot of us, all of us do this on some level, just some more than others. And so this is one of the things that in the past as a psychologist, what I've had to do is help people understand the thoughts that are driving them that they aren't even aware of. And so the first step is simply become more aware of your thoughts. And when you have a thought of feeling, or maybe an emotion of feeling like, I feel ashamed because I only make $32,000 a year or something like that. Okay, so what are the thoughts that are driving that emotion of feeling embarrassed? And then go back. Are those thoughts accurate? Are they objective? Is there a better way that I could think about that? And so bring it back to the idea stage and start proving or disproving it. I hope that made sense.
Got it. So if I'm somebody that is only making $32,000 a year, and whether I realize it or not, I'm carrying around a certain degree of embarrassment and shame on a day-to-day basis.
Possibly.
And that over time, that's going to weigh on my shoulders, right? And it's going to really affect the way that I live, right? And the stories that I tell myself, and
yes,
how much I value myself. So someone that is that deep into the rabbit hole, let's say I'm feeling that way now, and I come to you and say, Dr. Sheri, I only make 32,000. What am I supposed to do? What's one thing that I can walk away from as a simple practice? Might not change my life overnight, but what's a practice that I can take on to pay attention to my own thoughts like that, like you said?
If you were to come with me, actually what I would do first is I would have you really examine what your values are in your life. So there's an exercise that I will take people through to help them really identify and with clarity what their values are in their life. And we try to get to the top 3 to 4, because most people don't really value money. Like that's not the thing they value. They value other things. And if I can get, if I could get you, Aaron, to realize that you don't really care about 32,000 as much as you care about seeing an impact that you just had in a customer's life, if you're, in sales or whatever. But if I can get you to be more aware that impact you had on somebody is really what you care the most about, then you're shifting your attention and realizing that you are, extremely valuable in your job. And so rather than focusing on the money, we're focusing on the areas of your life that you really truly care about. And that's going to build you up and help you feel more worthy.
That's actually fascinating. I actually, just on a side note, I don't know if you're a fan of Simon Sinek. I read one of his books recently. And he's got a very famous viral video on social media where he talks about millennials in the workplace, and how the number one complaint among millennials is that they're not making an impact. Right. They feel unimportant in their job. So that's an entire generation is feeling what you're talking about. So that's I think that's right on the money there.